Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 249 of the podcast. Or you're joining live on Facebook or YouTube if you want to catch the show live. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications on Facebook or YouTube so you can catch the show as it's happening, like right now. Today is Monday, July 26th, and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, I might have forgotten how to do this because it's been quite a few weeks since we've done a show. It's all on me. I've had a lot going on, and I'll let you guys in on it. There have been 3 MMA cards. I have been in 6 different states, and to be honest, I've lost count of how many different whiskeys there have been over the past few weeks, but I will do my best to recap it all for you here on this Monday afternoon. So some of you may remember, I know it's been a long time, you probably listened to 5 dozen other podcasts in between, but I did go on vacation with the wife's family out to the West Coast. Saw a few different states over there, some national parks, a lot of fun stuff. And then while I was away, I got some unfortunate family news that I had to attend to. So I flew from Phoenix, Arizona, back to Tampa on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I got on the first flight I could up to New York to see the family. I had a personal matter that needed attending to, and I attended to it, and I'm still here. I'm currently at my sister's house, a little bit upstate New York, what a lot of you would consider upstate New York. And I'm heading back to Tampa later this evening, finally be home. And then I'm hitting the road again on Friday to go somewhere else with the wife's family. So it's been quite a lot of running around. And believe me, I'm not looking for any sympathy from any of you or anything, but I am wiped out. A hiking vacation with a toddler is not the most restful and relaxing thing you could be doing. And then dealing with everything I'm dealing with here. But, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you guys know you're not going to get me at full power today. The bright side of all this is I finally got to meet my beautiful niece, Emily Isla, while coming up here to New York. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to link up with Jeff the Animal Wilson. He's going to be joining us shortly. Well, shortly, according to him. So that could be, the last 10 minutes of the episode, or it could be momentarily. Who knows? You never know with Jeff. That's why I keep him around, because he's unpredictable. Keeps things spicy. See quite a few of you joining us here on a Monday afternoon. I hope nobody's getting in trouble listening to the show at work. If you did really miss the show, you can grab some MMA on the Rocks merchandise from our friends at Team Reaper. Reaper1.co is the website. Promo code MMA Rocks 10. It's MMA ROCKS10. If you want to grab some over the top, under the influence gear, t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, or you can grab some other MMA gear, support a fighter of your choosing. And I'm going to cut this promo short because it's my show and I can do that. And we have on the line, all the way from across the Hudson River, Jeff the Animal Wilson. Jeff, how's it going, my brother?
Bill, I'm living the dream, dude. I'm driving for DoorDash during the summer. So, Bill, I did 10 deliveries, and I was like, you know what? I'm over this. I'm going home. Which was convenient because you texted me like right after I did my last drop-off. So I was like, hey, I don't have a manager here telling me that I got to stay. So I'm just going to go home and record a podcast.
Beautiful when it works out that way, huh? It's a rarity, especially for you and I. and especially over the last few weeks. I have not had access to good enough internet. Like I thought I had poor internet connection like back home in Tampa, where it would like kind of crap out every now and then. We get a lot of stormy weather. Let me tell you something, Jeff. They've barely discovered internet in Utah, I think. I didn't get into any details on the trip. I was just kind of filling everybody in on where I've been and where I am now and where I'm headed.
Bill, that reminds me. You've been MIA. You've been basically a POI, a prisoner of the in-laws, the last 2 weeks. So, Bill, I need a damage report here. Where's your psyche at?
I'm basically held together with duct tape and scotch at this point, Jeff. I would say I've been in 6 different states in the past 3 weeks. There's been 3 UFC cards, and I lost count of all the different whiskeys and things. Like I'm so far back off the wagon, Jeff, I can't even see it anymore. The wagon left the station without me, and I'm not mad about it.
So I think the wagon left the station and you fell off and you didn't realize it.
Oh, no, I realized that. I jumped off that motherfucker. I'm actually sitting here on a Monday afternoon sipping some Caolila, Caolila, for those of you not viewing the show. This is an Islay Scotch. It's confusing because Islay, Islay, and Ela, Ila. So it's Caolila from Islay. Those of you who are not well versed in Scotch, I will tell you that Islay Scotches are typically on the smokier, peatier side. They tend to be darker. This is very light in color. You can kind of see it's got almost like an Irish whiskey look to it. And it is very light for an Islay whiskey. Usually they tend to be darker, like your Lagavulin, Jeff, is an Islay whiskey. And I'm drinking this because I'm at my brother-in-law's house, and he's a huge Islay Scotch fan, so much so that his daughter's middle name is Islay for that reason. I'm not going to lie. I did have some influence on that decision. I did suggest it since he's such a fan of the Scotch from that region. It's spelled a little different, though. So we got Islay, and Ela. But yeah, the Caolila is good. If you do not like peaty smokiness, this is not the thing for you. I know to some people they say it tastes like boiled Band-Aids. I do not get that flavor profile. This one, I get like a little bit of vanilla coming through, a little bit of like oakiness, like some softer wood, and it's got a little bit of spice on the back end, a little bit of pepper on the tongue. It's really good, and we've been sipping a lot of Scotch because we got some family matters going on, which is what brought me to New York. That I won't get into, but yeah, we've been putting them back. It's also it's fortunate I got to finally meet my niece and spend some time with her, which has been awesome. But it's unfortunate that my wife and daughter are back in Florida. And so it's been a rough couple of weeks, Jeff. I don't want anybody feeling bad for me. I've been on like a really cool vacation and, got to spend some time with my niece, but I'm feeling pretty run down, kid. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like my body's just been in a washing machine for the last 3 weeks. And I'm just kind of like trying to dry it out right now. What's going on with you, kid?
Bill, I've just been busy, man, with girls' soccer practice and driving for DoorDash in between, the days that I feel like it, because they're running this promotion. And if I make a certain amount of deliveries in like 60 days, me and my sister who put me on to DoorDash, we each get a nice bonus. So working towards that. But I think next summer I'm going to get an actual job, Bill. This is putting a lot of miles on my car. And it's getting pretty dinged up, so probably get like an actual job next year.
All right. Well, incentive-based income. It's a good thing. So you get to change things up from your your normal profession, at least it's something different.
Yeah, but they don't take out taxes, so I'm going to get reamed in a few months.
You better, yeah. I recommend like putting a third of whatever you make in a separate account so you don't touch it. That would be a good plan. Yeah, so we got 3 MMA cards to kind of like loosely go over. Did you want to hear anything else about this trip? A few details on that, or you want to get into the MMA? What are we doing here, kid?
Bill, it's your show, man. You know, if you want to share some of the beautiful places you guys went to, I saw some pictures on IG, Bill, and it's looking like you had a good time. You know, except for, you know, who you were with.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I'll say this, it's definitely an added level of stress traveling with the in-laws, and the type of trip it was. You know, we did a lot of national parks, a lot of hiking, a lot of outdoorsy type stuff. You know, we were nowhere near internet for the better part of 2 weeks, you know, which is good and bad. It's good to unplug and disconnect and stuff like that. But then, you know, some stuff was going on with my family and I was a little bit stuck. It wasn't the most ideal trip, especially, you know, doing a long road trip and, you know, with a lot of physical activity with a toddler. You know, that had its challenges, but, you know, the bright side of it was we got to see some beautiful sights. So we flew into Fresno, California. We stayed right outside of Yosemite Park, which was beautiful. They had the giant sequoia trees there and hiking trails. And we tried to keep up with my sister-in-law and her family for a little bit. They wanted to see all the sites and they know all the landmarks and everything, but we pumped the brakes a little bit because we had the little one. So, but, you know, we got to do some cool hiking. We would just, you know, swim in the river, you know, tire her out and then go back to the hotel. We were getting up at like 4:30 in the morning every day because it was like 100 degrees. So we got our hiking in early, then we would go back, have a nap, you know, wake up, have dinner, go to the pool, go to bed early. You know, it was a different rhythm, you know. And then from there, we went through Death Valley. I would definitely not recommend anybody do that with or without a toddler. It's kind of cool to see, but it's just, how do I put this? It's just a shit dust hole, Jeff. Like,
Bill,
it's just
people only go to Death Valley to run into the Undertaker. I mean,
I didn't see him. I think it was even too hot for old Mark Calloway out there. That was another thing. Even though we woke up at 4:30 in the morning, by like 6, I stopped to pump gas in Death Valley, and I thought I was going to die. So I let the little one out of the car one time, and then, you know, we were trying to go see the sights in there, which it's like there's sand dunes and there's like different, you know, mountain formations, and there's like what used to be a lake that's kind of salted over, and it's just like solid salt right now that you can walk on. So we did that, but we cut out early on Death Valley. We took my niece with us because she wasn't into it either. And we headed straight to Vegas. Also, you know, not the greatest place to be with a toddler, because we walked through all the casinos and stuff, and she sees the gambling, and she's like, I want to play that game and that game. And it's like, no, honey, you don't want to play that game. Those are the games that people play to lose all their money. But you know, it's hard to explain it to her because it's like, you know, she sees all the flashing lights and everything. So we dipped out on Death Valley. You know, we still got to see what it is, which is, you know, like I said, a shit dust hole. And then went into Vegas. We stayed at the Trump Hotel in Vegas, not for political reasons. Obviously, that just happens to be where my sister-in-law booked us on this trip. I didn't really know what I was getting into, Jeff. She had like a whole itinerary, and I was an idiot and didn't read it.
Bill, but why would you waste your time doing that? I mean, you got to be there anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But I could have like at least mentally prepared and like maybe like skipped a few of the checkpoints. Yeah, but, so it was the Trump Hotel, but they move kind of slow in there, Jeff. Like I would go down and get a drink from the bar, and or like I would get breakfast for my daughter to bring back up to the room, and I'd be sitting there for a while. It's like they're trying to make America wait again.
Bill, how long have you been waiting to tell me that joke?
I don't know, 2.5 weeks.
Oh man.
And it sucks too, because I got into Vegas, and obviously I'm an MMA guy. I got into town the day after the Conor McGregor fight, and I left town, I guess 3 or 4 days before the Islam Makhachev fight. So it was a weird kind of limbo. But the bright side of this leg of the trip was I got to meet up with my buddy Dan Tom from MMA Junkie and the Protect Your Neck podcast. You guys know Dan Tom. He's been on this show, friend of the show. So I finally got to meet him in person. We went out. We had some scotch. We actually had some Lagavulin, Jeff.
Nice.
And we were also sipping on some Oban 14. He took me to like a local spot that was off the strip. I had some good buffalo wings, some good conversation. Dan's a good dude. There's a lot of, in the MMA Twitter community, there's a lot of like very toxic people, very antagonistic type people. But Dan's definitely one of the good ones. So I'm glad I was able to make some time to see him. I wanted to see our buddy, the Southpaw Outlaw, Serena De Jesus, but it just didn't align, her schedule and mine. But I did also get to see a Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas, and I took the little one to it. Didn't know how that was going to go. The show is called O, I believe, or it was at the O Theater in the Bellagio. She sat through the whole hour-and-a-half show, Jeff. And
nice.
It was cool because it was like a water show, so they have a pool on the stage, and they're doing high diving and acrobatics and synchronized swimming, and there's like a mime show, and there's a lot going on. But yeah, she was into it, and then she was like performing in the lobby of the Bellagio after. She's like, I want to be in that show. I want to be in the water. So that was actually really cool. I thought was like, I was thinking like, man, is this going to be like a waste of a lot of money bringing a 3-year-old to this? But it wound up being like actually a really cool experience. So that was Vegas. From there, we went to Utah, Zion National Park, which was beautiful. I didn't really know what to expect there. I didn't know a lot about it, but basically you're in like a canyon surrounded by these giant red cliffs, and you can go through the rivers and stuff. The three of us, my wife and the kiddo, did a little hike on our own the last day, where we hiked about a mile to like a beautiful 15-foot waterfall and a little pool. I was able to jump off the rocks into the pool. The wife got scared out of the water by what she thought was a snake. It turned out to be a stick floating in the water. But to her credit, it did look a lot like a snake.
Yeah, but to her credit, I expected nothing less from Claudia, Bill. It's why I miss you guys, man. It's Jeff, the antics you get into.
I'm up on the rock, right? And it's slippery. And I'm getting ready to jump in. And I can't climb back down because it's like too slick. There was just enough, for me to get my footing to get up the rock. And she's like, there's a snake in the water. And I was like, well, what does it look like? She goes, it's brown and black, and it's a little bit smaller than the one we see in our yard. So she takes the baby out of the water. Now I'm up on this rock, and she's telling me there's a snake in the water. The only way I have to go is to jump in. So I'm like, well, I'll probably make a big enough splash and scare it off. So I do that. I swim out. I go check on them, and then I get back in the water. And I go inspect the snake because I wanted to hang out at this pool a little more. Like, let me see if I scared it off. And I get up to it, and the stick was curved in such a way that it looked like a snake head with eyes and stuff. And I got up to it, and I hit it with another stick, and it didn't move. So then I kind of like washed it towards me, and I pulled it out of the water, and even out of the water, it still looked like a snake. Like somebody planted this stick there, I think, Jeff. Even though this was like a remote hiking trail, we hardly saw any other people. It was like a local had recommended it to us because the sites in Zion are cool, but it's like crowded and touristy. So this was my favorite part, like being able to hike to this waterfall. And it was an easy hike for the little one. You know, she enjoyed it, you know, jumping off of rocks and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. And then we headed to probably the worst leg of the trip besides Death Valley, and that was Bryce Canyon, which is really cool. They have these things called hoodoos, which are like limestone, like mineral deposits that they kind of stack up over time and form like these kind of like lumpy towers. It looks like some kind of city out of like Star Wars or something. You know, like the first Star Wars when he's in like the desert city.
But you said those aren't man-made, right? So you don't know who do the hoodoo?
I mean, who do you think you are suggesting that, Jeff? That I don't know something about what I'm looking at. Yeah, I don't know fucking anything about like geography or geology. And especially when you combine the two, I'm completely lost. Like, I can tell you pretty much everything there is to know about like whiskey and fighting, but beyond that, you know, don't come to me for information. Like, I'm probably not even telling you the right order of things that we went through. But Bryce Canyon was really cool. The first night, my in-laws watched the baby so we could kind of go look at it because it's pretty dangerous. They don't have like a railing or anything. So you can fall right down like to your death basically. And, you know, toddlers aren't aware, you know, their depth perception isn't there, or they're like try to run off. So that would have been too scary to do with her. And then we were walking, there's no railing or anything. And then they have like these spikes that were maybe 18 inches high with a plastic chain run through them. I'm like, oh, I'm really glad they're taking care of our safety here. But you can hike down into the canyon. So the second day we attempted that with the little one, but I didn't realize that, again, there was no railing on the whole trail. You're just like going down the side of the canyon. So I carried her the whole way, and then I carried her back up, and it was pretty steep. So my legs were burning for like 3 days after that, Jeff. So after that, I decided like maybe I should research, you know, these these spots we're headed to a little more carefully. But then after Bryce Canyon, we went into the Grand Canyon. And that was a little better because it's a little safer. They have railings and stuff there. And I had been there before. And the highlight for me was you get to the first viewpoint where you see the Grand Canyon for the first time. And they have this viewing tower. And don't get me wrong, the Grand Canyon is an amazing sight. But I had already been there like 4 years ago. So, you know, I wasn't that excited about it. But it's still an amazing thing to see. But my father-in-law was seeing it for the first time. So he walks down, you know, he's got his 2 canes now. He has a hard time getting around. But he comes up to me and he's like, what do you think, Bill? All this suffering just to see some rocks.
Dude. Oh, man.
And
man.
That was like that moment of him saying that to me was like the highlight of the trip for me. Cause like, you know, you're on vacation with your in-laws. You're not allowed to complain to the wife. Like I would be texting you throughout the trip and letting you know, like being a little sarcastic and a little negative about, you know, some of the things on the trip. But when he said that to me, it just made the whole trip. Like that line like made it all worth it. Like all the struggling through the canyons and, you know, all the rushing around to get from A to B to Z. Yeah, that line made the whole trip. You know, that and the fact that, you know, I jumped off the wagon and I was drinking along the whole way. Got to try a lot of cool beers. Went through a few bottles of whiskey over the course of the 2 weeks. Not the greatest culinary vacation, you know. Usually when the wife and I travel, we look for, good local beer or distilleries and good local food. Like Utah, for example, when we were outside of Bryce Canyon, they only had like one decent restaurant, and it was an hour wait just to get takeout. So we wound up just having Hot Pockets in the hotel that night, and that was probably a good decision. But Claudia, Jeff, like what it would take to get her to eat a Hot Pocket. You know that it's desperate times.
Yeah, dude, that's like post-apocalyptic for any normal person.
Yeah, for my wife, who's like very health conscious and like very aware of everything she puts in her body, and she, on a daily basis will measure her breath to see if she's burning carbohydrates or fat, and does hot yoga 6 days a week. For her to put a Hot Pocket in her body, you know that it's got to be desperate times for desperate measures. But that was that. And then we went to, after the Grand Canyon, which, was kind of cool. We were able to see some cool sights. The other funny thing was like we got to like the first viewpoint, and my daughter goes, "Daddy, why are we here?"
Nice.
So her and my father-in-law had the lines of the trip. And, she's not going to remember seeing the Grand Canyon, but we did get some cool pictures of her there. And on the way to Phoenix, we stopped in Sedona. They have like a drive-through zoo, so obviously the kiddo loved that one. And then we went to Phoenix, where I was able to meet up with another fellow MMA podcaster, Mr. Eddie Law, from the Keyboard Warriors podcast. So that was awesome. He met me at a bar like right down the street from my hotel, and the Phoenix Suns were in the last game of the championship, which unfortunately they lost, but he's a big Phoenix Suns fan. So even though the game 6, I think it was, of the championship was going on, he still came out, meet up with me. Another really cool guy. As we all know, there's a lot of toxic people on the internet there, but I tend to have a pretty good radar for people. And Eddie's a really good dude. We had a good time, a lot of laughs. We had some drinks, and hot as fucking Phoenix, man. Even like 5 o'clock at night, it was 109 degrees, and we're sitting outside watching this basketball game because the bar was crowded. But it was really cool being able to link up with him and Dan Tom, and doing the MMA podcasting thing. Lets you meet some really cool people. You meet some shitty people too, but I think the good people outweigh that. So yeah, I'm glad I was able to link up with those two guys. They're two of the better guys within this space. I don't listen to a lot of MMA podcasts besides Chael Sonnen, but Protect Your Neck and Keyboard Warriors, those are two of my favorites for sure. So I was glad I was able to meet up with those guys. And then flew out of Phoenix. Stressful getting the little one through the airport and everything. Landed in Tampa Wednesday, flew out to New York Thursday, and I'll be flying back to Tampa at 6 o'clock tonight. So that's it in a nutshell, Jeff. I mean, probably could go on and on, but I already spent half the episode talking about this trip. I guess we should talk a little MMA, but any commentary on the vacation stuff?
Bill, I've been reading this book for work. They have this summer reading club bullshit. But so we had two choices. One was about critical race theory, which I don't know anything about, so I didn't want to get into that. The other one was about conflict resolution. So I was like, you know what? In the classroom, there's a lot of conflict, with kids, having different backgrounds. You don't know where everybody's coming from, what their family life is like. So I was like, let me read that one and see if it can, if I can learn something from it. But one of the things I learned is that when you approach a situation, you have to be at peace. And sometimes when you're in the middle of the heat, it can be hard to get to that piece. So the book suggests, you know, having certain memories or certain places in your head that remind you of a good time. And Bill, I think the line, all that struggle to see a bunch of rocks is one of those things, man. I'm just gonna like think of that and then just start laughing and be like, I don't even know what I was mad about.
Yeah. Yeah. Every future vacation, I'm going to be bringing that line up, even if it's not even relevant. But if I'm struggling with something, I'm going to remember that one. That was possible just because of everything that led up to it. It was one of the funniest moments of my life. So I thank my father-in-law for that, amongst many other things, and also a very happy birthday to him. His birthday passed on the 23rd, and I wasn't able to be there for it, so I'm gonna have to celebrate with him when I get back into town. But yeah, very happy birthday to the man who made the trip worth it with that one-liner. Yeah, so let's talk about some MMA, Jeff, and I'll tell you exactly where I want to start in the middle. So we had Conor McGregor a few weeks ago breaking his leg against Dustin Poirier. Just last night we had Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw, but I'll tell you what I want to talk about, Jeff. My man, Billy Quarantillo, with fight of the night, third round TKO over Gabriel Benitez on UFC on ESPN 26. I was so happy for this guy, man. And I was actually in Lake Powell. That was the one stop I forgot to mention on the trip, but I was in Lake Powell, which is a really cool site. It's got a bunch of like the salt mountains and then a lake at the bottom of it. And we were staying at a resort on the lake there, and there was zero internet, zero cell reception. So to watch Billy's fight, I had to be like standing on the balcony, like reaching over the railing with my phone to try and get some reception on it. But I was able to watch Billy's fight, and man, I was just so damn proud of that kid. He went out there and just put it on this guy with pressure. And initially he was supposed to fight Herbert Burns, and I liked that fight for him because it was a little name recognition, would have done a little more for him potentially. So then he gets Gabriel Benitez, who's, a little bit more of an unknown. And I was like, shit, I don't like this fight as much for Billy. Like, it's not going to do as much for him, like getting him some shine that he deserves, because I know how hard he works, But then he comes in as an underdog to this guy. And I'm like, who's making these odds? Like, what's going on? Have you not seen these guys fight? And I guess they're basing it on Billy's last fight against Gavin Tucker. But I'm like, man, you don't know Billy Q. He's going to come into this fight like a bat out of hell. And normally a slow starter, but he came out guns blazing in this one. And Benitez put up a fight. Like, obviously he made it a fight of the night, but he got the worst end of that dog fight. And then I was so happy to hear that he got the fight of the night bonus. And then it was the most talked about fight the next day. So, well-deserved, man. I was super happy for Billy. Put on such a great performance. And then, I was worried about the matchup, like, because even if he wins, it wasn't going to do much for him. But, he turned some lemons into a bourbon lemonade. I was so happy for him because, he deserves all the shine he's getting and more. So, yeah, that was that. So I guess we'll start with this card, Jeff. Give me your thoughts on Billy and, what else stood out to you on this card. We had Islam Makhachev. We had Misha Tate making her comeback. Give me what you're thinking.
Yeah, Bill, I was so happy for Billy Q, man. And I purposely did not text you about that fight that night because I wanted you to be surprised if you weren't watching it live. So really excited for Billy Q, man. Just pounding this guy Benitez, man. Like, Bill, if he didn't win by TKO, it looked like he was going to win by submission or win at least two of those rounds by 10-8, man. He had Benitez, especially in the second and third round, in some really bad spots, man. Just riding him like a backpack, taking the back. If he wasn't on his back, he mounted him and was laying down the law with some ground and pound. But Bill, this is what Billy Q is capable of, and this is why I'm such a fan of his. But yeah, improves his record to 4-1. I don't remember exactly who he called out after, but I remember him. I remember liking it. I remember liking the call out after. And he just basically put the division on notice in his call out afterward. So really happy for Billy Q, dude. After a tough loss to what was his name?
Gavin Tucker.
Yeah, Gavin Tucker, who he also after that fight with Billy Q, he even said that was one of his tougher fights and that it really tested his cardio and his grappling. But Bill, man, looking at the rest of this card, Bill, I'll be honest with you, I was a little in and out of it. Yeah. I don't know if it's because we didn't record a show like the week before and kind of hyped up the fights a little bit, but every fight on the main card was a finish, which is great, but I don't know, it just felt like it was missing something. I don't know if it was because of the main event, maybe, because to me, it felt like Makhachev kind of just went out there and had another day at the office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was kind of that vibe. I mean, Thiago Moises did, he put up a fight. He was hanging in the grappling exchanges, even wound up on top of Makhachev briefly. But yeah, I mean, it says a lot that Makhachev was able to finish him. That was a big step, especially submitting a guy who had never been submitted and a fellow Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And we briefly lost Jeff, it looks like. But yeah, I thought Makhachev was impressive, and it seems like, nobody wants to fight this guy, and I can understand why. Because, now he's got a 5-round fight under his belt. It didn't go the whole 5 rounds, but got to finish in the 4th. So there's no going back now. He's got to be a main event going forward. So he's going to need a guy in that top 5, top 7 range. It looks like it might be RDA, which will be a good test for him. He does have, everybody makes the comparisons to Khabib, including Khabib. But he does have that one loss on his record. And, people, you got some heavy hitters in that top 5. Personally, I would like to see him and Michael Chandler. I think that would be fun because Chandler is one of the only guys I think who has the wrestling to, not only compete with Makhachev in the grappling department, but possibly take him down and keep him there. Obviously Makhachev could do the same thing to Chandler, but the difference maker there is Chandler's right hand. If he touches Makhachev on the way in, diving for a leg or a body lock or something like that, it could be a quick night. So I think that would be a fun fight. I was impressed with Miesha Tate, not so much in the performance, beating a fighter in her 40s on her way out. Like, you don't see a lot of men fighting in their 40s, not to mention women, but credit to Marion Renault for having such a long career, getting a late start in such a rough sport. But it wasn't so much the performance, but the fact that she came back after 5 years and having 2 children.
Yeah.
That alone, I don't care who she's in there with. You put her in there with like a grappling dummy, I'm still going to be impressed that she made the walk and got in there. And not only did she do that, she got the win and she got a finish. Do I necessarily want to see her get in there with Amanda Nunes? I'd have to see a little bit more, but damn, that was fucking impressive by Miesha Tate.
Yeah, dude, I was impressed with Miesha as well for the same reasons. The performance I didn't care too much for just because Marion Renault is like 47 or something. But yeah, like you said, man, for Miesha Tate to come in there and after 5 years and 2 kids, I think she was still breastfeeding when this fight happened. So, dude, much respect to her, dude.
Yeah, imagine in between rounds they got to bring the baby in on the stool.
I mean, she probably pumped out a gallon while she was warming up.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, dude. Yeah, it's a great comeback story. Very similar to a women's soccer player. And this was a few years back. She was 36 or something, and ended up being fit enough and skilled enough to make the national team. And then she won the World Cup that year with the team. But similar story. And I don't think. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Miesha Tate's gonna be able to beat Amanda Nunes by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't even think she should be considering a title run right now, just because it's been so long. But she didn't look bad. If you give her somebody who maybe like between the top 11 to 15 fighters, I think if she could do something impressive against, then I'm willing to jump on the bandwagon for that. But take nothing away from Miesha Tate, dude. Much respect for being able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is, it's slim pickings in this division. Like, Amanda Nunes pretty much cleaned it out. It would be a huge fight, but I would need to see, I think, a little bit more from her. I don't know what that would mean. Maybe a rematch with Holly Holm. That was a great fight the first time.
Yeah.
It could go two ways. Like, yeah, she had 5 years away, but you could look at it like she had 5 years for her body to recover from the beating she put it through. But then you keep analyzing it, your body takes a beating carrying a child.
Yeah.
And she did that twice. But it's a different thing. It's just, it's a remarkable example of what the human body is capable of. She could, have a great MMA career. She could give birth to 2 children, come back 5 years later, get a win and a finish. One of the most impressive feats of the last few weeks that we missed covering the sport. Adolfo Vieira and Mateusz Gamrot both getting submission wins on the main card as well. Daniel Rodriguez, first round knockout over Preston Parsons. I missed most of this card, but it looked, I saw the main event, and I saw Miesha Tate's fight, and of course Billy's, but that was that. We can move on. So fight night on ESPN 27, which was UFC Vegas, whatever it was, 30 something, I don't know. TJ Dillashaw, controversial split decision over Corey Sandhagen.
What? Bill, what's the controversy? TJ Dillashaw put the hurt on him.
That's surprising to hear from you as such a big Dominic Cruz fan.
Take nothing away. Dominic Cruz is still the greatest bantamweight to ever have lived. All right. But I'm a fan of TJ too. And Bill, why don't you give me your analysis first, and then I'll tell you what I saw.
So when it was over, I did, and I'll admit I was a little in and out on this fight. I had to go back and rewatch it. I was kind of watching it like in the car in between my sister's house and my parents' house. But I did score it for Corey, points wise. And if you look at the significant strikes, like, he did outland him, he did have a higher percentage. But I was talking to my uncle, not my Uncle Tommy, that's a big fan of UFC and follows it closely, but my other uncle, my mom's brother, who does not watch much at all, but he happened to watch this fight because he had nothing else going on. He was just at the cigar shop and they had it on. He watched it, and he was saying, like, at the end of it, I thought the Corey guy had won. He's like, but TJ was the aggressor. He was coming forward the whole time. And, you got to understand that's what the judges are looking at a lot of the times, even though he was getting countered a lot and Sandhagen busted him up. But you got to remember, TJ Dillashaw is basically on one leg after getting his knee hyperextended in the first round with that lazy escape from the leg lock entanglement that he had. He popped his knee a little bit, but he's still coming forward the whole time. He's catching flying knees, turning them into takedowns. But a lot of people go by damage, so TJ looked a lot worse for wear at the end of this fight. Corey's just one of those guys, doesn't really cut, doesn't really swell up. He just happens to be one of those guys, but he was taking some big shots, man. I scored it point-wise 3-2 for Sandhagen, but I can understand why it went to TJ. It was a very close fight. I think a lot of people were saying that Sandhagen won because a lot of people are frustrated with Dillashaw because of the EPO, steroids thing, which I don't really understand. He got caught. He got punished. Like, it's over. It's over now. Like, if you think your favorite fighter is not taking something to get a little bit of an edge, you're kind of living in a fairy tale land, because they'll tell you all of the high-level guys are taking stuff. They're all trying to beat the test. There's ways around it. That's just the world we live in. That's the reality of it. But he got caught. He did his time. I could understand more so being mad at like a John Jones who gets caught and they find loopholes for him. TJ at least did his time. But give me your breakdown of the fight, Jeff.
Bill, I'll be honest with you. Early in the fight, first 2 rounds, I had them for Corey Sandhagen. Doing a good job with the counters. His striking was coming in from weird angles. It felt like TJ couldn't get a read on him. And, as the fight went on, and TJ Dillashaw started to incorporate his grappling a little bit more. The clinch work for me, I think it was spot on. And when TJ couldn't take Sandhagen down, he would start attacking his legs. He would wrap him up, get behind him, and start attacking those legs. So to me, that was doing a lot of damage, I felt like, because even in a position where he couldn't advance, he was still doing damage. And I think, though, that damage to the legs really paid off later in the fight, man. You saw Corey Sandhagen slow down a lot, not just because of the course of the 5 rounds, but it felt like TJ was able to really slow him down a lot. But yeah, I probably have to go back and watch this one too, because there were times where, this one was on a little bit late and I started watching the card late because ESPN Plus was giving me a hard time. So I didn't start watching the card until like 8 something. And I started from the prelims. I thought this card was pretty solid actually, but, yeah, dude. So I might have to go back and watch it. But to me, it felt like TJ was able to just take back control of that fight, starting at the end of that 2nd round, early 3rd round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll tell you another thing. Like, I did score it for Corey, but at the end of the fight, if you were to ask me who the better mixed martial artist is, I would tell you TJ Dillashaw 100%. Because I think if he doesn't hurt his knee in that 1st round. Now, credit to Corey because he had his leg tangled up. Like, he gets credit for hurting the knee. But I think if that didn't happen, then I think TJ would have ran away with it. It would have been a lot more clear who the winner was. But, split decision, I think, is fair. I think, watching it, I scored it for Corey, but I understand why someone would score it for Dillashaw. I don't think it was like as much of a robbery as people were making it out to be. Thought it was a close fight. Now, I do need to watch it again. I did try to watch it yesterday morning again, but I was having the same problems with ESPN Plus, and I couldn't stream it to a TV. I was trying to get on my laptop. I tried to, AirPlay off my phone. For whatever reason, like, nothing works. And they just hiked the price up of ESPN Plus as well. They moved it from like $5 a month to like $6.99 a month. So that better mean that, they're upgrading the platform and making it more user friendly, because it's fucking garbage. And I'll never stop saying this as long as it's still bad. Like, even bare knuckle boxing has a better app than the UFC right now. And the UFC is on ESPN, the king of sports or worldwide leader, and I don't know, whatever they call themselves, but they're not the worldwide leader in, mobile platforms. That's for sure. They're far from it. I think like the fucking World Cricket League probably has a better app than the UFC right now. Like, it's fucking trash, and it needs to be fixed. Like, hardly ever works. Like, so most of the time, if I stream from my phone, I can't even play the fights. And then it would be great if they could, because they break down the fights like one at a time, so you could play the fights the next day. Like, it would be great if that worked, because it doesn't. Because sometimes you go to play a prelim fight and it'll start playing the whole prelim, and you try to fast forward and find the fight you're looking for, and you can't. You're trying to discourage people from pirating the pay-per-views. Like, put those resources into fixing your platform. But anyway, rant over. The co-main event I thought was a great fight. Raulian Paiva getting the majority decision over Kyler Phillips. I did not think that this was the correct decision for this one. I scored this a draw because I gave Kyler Phillips a clear 10-8 in the first round, and then Paiva came back and he won the second too, but I did not think he won that fight. I think it should have been a draw. Now, I have my opinions on Kyler Phillips as well. Like, he's an awesome fighter, but he gets too far away from the basics and gets too into the flashy stuff, and that tires you out. And when you have a guy like Paiva who, you think you basically finished him in the first round, and then the guy comes back and fights 2 hard rounds and wins them, that shows flaws in your game plan. Like, don't try and go and blast somebody out of there in the first round with some spinning, wild backflip, cartwheel shit. Go in there and use your fundamentals so that you can fight just as hard in the third round. So even though I don't agree with Paiva winning because I scored it a draw, and I thought that was a very easy decision to come to, and only one judge scored it that way. I think I respect Paiva a little bit more coming out of this one. Give me your thoughts, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill, it's hard to argue with you on that one. I agree. I think it should have been a draw. But much respect to Paiva, dude, because he was getting smashed. He was getting annihilated in that first round. I mean, if somebody were to, try to convince me that first round could have been a 10-7, it wouldn't take a lot to convince me of that.
Yeah, especially under the new unified rules that aren't unified.
Yeah. Whatever rules the CDC says is okay this week. But dude, fantastic fight. Great comeback from Paiva. I don't agree with the decision, but I also don't hate it because, like you said, Kyler Phillips, he only trained for 1 round. He thought he was going to win that fight in 1 round. And in the UFC, man, this is the big leagues. That doesn't happen. At least you can't go into a fight expecting that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen time after time these guys, with the flashy maneuvers, like, Michel Pereira and guys like this. Like, it doesn't work against the higher level guys. You come in throwing like the spinning stuff. You come in, try doing that against TJ Dillashaw. Try doing that against Corey Sandhagen in this bantamweight division. Like, good fucking luck to you. You're just going to empty your gas tank, and then you got 4 more rounds of 100% energy coming your way. So it's just not effective. Like, I would like to see him change it up a little bit. I know people like to see the flashy knockouts and, see the highlight reels, but look what it gets you. Speaking of comebacks, Darren Elkins doing what Darren Elkins does, come from behind. This was a fun fight with Darrick Minner. There were some fun scrambles in this one. A lot of reversals that, like, you wouldn't normally see in anywhere but a Darren Elkins fight. And I liked his call out at the end of this. He was like, I just want something that'll make sense. I'm 37. Let's just do something that's fun for the fans and that's going to be competitive. So, how do you not like Darren Elkins unless you enjoy good tattoos?
Oh man. Yeah, dude, Bill, I was watching this fight, and as I'm seeing him take damage, I'm like, I know it seems like Darren Elkins won't win because of how much damage he took in the first round. But in my head, I was like, there's still 2 rounds to go, man. And Darren Elkins, this is where he comes alive, man. And he just took Derek Minner into the deep water, man, in that second round, and just it was way too much for him. And this is why we love watching Darren Elkins go to work, man. It's because of stuff like this.
Yeah. Not only did he take him into deep water, but he beat the fuck out of him.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. As bloody as Darren Elkins got in that first round, he definitely paid it back and then some in that second round, dude.
Yeah. For the sake of time, I want to kind of breeze over the rest of this. The Macy Barber Miranda Maverick was another controversial one. People were upset about this one. I thought Miranda Maverick won this fight as well.
Yeah.
But the most definitive round was probably the third round, which went to Macy Barber. You could argue that 1 or 2 were close, competitive. It wasn't like a blowout. I'm trying to give the judges the benefit of the doubt here. They got it wrong. There's no 2 ways about it. They got it wrong. Miranda Maverick won the first 2 rounds. Macy Barber won the third. They fucked up. It happens. But I don't really have much else on it. It's not like, I'm not going to lose sleep over this one. That's all I have on it. You have anything else?
I agree with you, Bill. I felt like the judges got this one wrong. I mean, there was a little explosion for Macy Barber in that second round. I think it was a little bit more towards the end. Maybe, them seeing that as the last thing of the second round maybe swayed their opinion a little bit. But yeah, I think the judges got this one wrong, as well as the Paiva Phillips fight. Just a weird night of judging.
Yeah. Adrian Yanez and Randy Costa, apparently these guys were like building their fight up so much on social media that it got moved to the main card. And then they wound up putting on, I guess, what was fight of the night, with Yanez getting the TKO victory in the second round. This was a fun fight. These guys were slugging it out, but at the same time, Yanez was all about that check hook to the left hand, and that wound up being what finished the fight. That's what dropped Costa in the second round, and it was like over and over again with the slap hook to the straight left. So he didn't have to pull every tool out of the toolbox for this one, but great fight, and they got some great attention. So happy for those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And this fight was fourth, Bill. Like, Costa came out very explosive in that first round. I actually thought he was going to finish Yanez in that first round, and then Yanez able to turn around in the second. If you didn't watch this one, definitely go back and check it out.
Yeah. The prelims were impressive, I thought, on this card. So Nasruddin Imavov getting the second round TKO over Ian Heinisch, who, Ian Heinisch fighting in main and co-main events a year ago, falling way down the ladder now, getting knocked out on the prelims. So I don't know what's going on with that guy. I know he moved camps a bunch of times, which is usually never a good thing. But this was a top competitor who now is like, so far removed from the title conversation that like he might be farther away from the title than I am from the wagon, Jeff.
Yeah, but dude, he got obliterated in that second round, dude. I forgot what Imavov hit him with. It might have been a 1-2 or a 2-3, but dude, oh man. Ian Heinisch just flew back against the fence. It was a little scary, man. Yeah, not good. But good for Imavov. That dude's going to be fighting on the main card next time out, in a middleweight division that needs some competitors, because you get pretty thin after the top 3 or 4. Mickey Gall looked good. Quick submission victory over Jordan Williams after he dropped him. It was pretty quick work for the black belt on the ground.
it pretty much looked like a black belt rolling with a blue belt. I don't know what Jordan Williams is ranked in jiu-jitsu or anything like that, but Mickey Gall showed his grappling expertise there. I'm just going to skim over the rest of the card, Jeff, and you tell me what stands out to you. Julio Arce looked really good against Andre Ewell, man. I don't know what it was with Ewell, but he was so hesitant in this fight, and he was only throwing off, one or two shots at a time. He wasn't putting combinations together. He would jump into the pocket and throw one or two shots and then not jump back out and then get caught with a combination from Arce, who just, pieced him up and then put it on him in the second round. Like, he was really pouring it on. I thought it was actually a good stoppage from Chris Tognoni. I'll usually say, like, it's an early stoppage if they're still on their feet. And Ewell was saying he was good and everything, but he wasn't good. The cage was what was holding him up. Sajara Eubanks, first round TKO over Elise Reed. And then Diana Belbita looked really good against Hannah Goldie, which is unfortunate because Hannah Goldie happens to be another Team Reaper sponsored athlete who, of course, makes our merchandise. So I was sorry to see her, take a loss like that. But she was still tough. She was still in the fight in the third round. Just, didn't have an answer for Belbita's offense. She was just kept putting it on her, and Goldie kept fighting back. She was in there, but not in there enough. So out of those prelims, Jeff, what sticks out to you there?
Bill, I'll be honest with you. I was impressed with Mickey Gall. One, because I'm a little biased and he fights out of Jersey.
Uh-huh.
And two, his striking looked much improved. He took about a year and some change off since his last fight, which I want to say was a loss or like a really close loss. But I was just I thought his striking looked really good. Yes, he won by a rear naked choke, but go back and watch that fight because on the feet he really wasn't struggling. He looked really good. Striking definitely still needs work, but definitely some improvements being shown. And Julio Arce as well, man, just put it on Andre Ewell, man. I would say go back and watch the entire prelim card for this card. This was a really good card. I didn't. Even the main card, I didn't feel like it was as good as the prelims, but all around this card was really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all of that, and it was weird because Andre Ewell was this guy who was supposed to be like another great prospect, and just kind of, another example of these guys who, early in their career, they have success with this flashy stuff. And then when they start to get in there with some real fighters, not that the people they're knocking out aren't real fighters, but like some real top level competition, that shit just doesn't work. You look at all the greatest of all times, it's all about fundamentals. I mean, you can make an argument for Anderson Silva. He got a little flashier, but that wound up being his downfall as well. He's getting a little too flashy with Chris Weidman, and Weidman didn't give in to the Mike Tyson effect and put Anderson Silva out for doing all the flashy stuff. But at the same time, Anderson Silva had really solid fundamentals. George St. Pierre, he had a great jab and a great double leg. That's all he needed to be considered one of the greatest of all time. If you like really break down his game, great jab, great double leg, great timing. You don't need to be the flashiest guy. You don't need to be finishing everybody to be one of the greats. And I think that's missing amongst a lot of the fighters today. They think they need a lot more. This upcoming card, Jeff, July 31st, UFC on ESPN 28. People complaining about how this card is shaping up, but those usually turn out to be, some of the more exciting cards when you don't know a lot of the fighters on it. Personally, I love the main event. Uriah Hall, Sean Strickland, that's a fun fight. Two strikers that really enjoy throwing down. Uriah Hall, very creative striker, but still very strong in the fundamentals. Sean Strickland, very tight, striking, moves straight forward, likes to get in the pocket. And then Strickland is coming in with that little bit of heat because of that scuffle with Orlando Sanchez a few weeks ago. So I think he's coming into this one looking like the bad guy here. I was on the side of Orlando Sanchez when all this went down. They had their little grappling scuffle, and Strickland went to get an underhook the wrong way, and Sanchez kind of went to snap his arm real quick. And, Sean Strickland got all butthurt and tried to front kick him. And, when they're just grappling, he goes to kick him in the stomach. I thought that was in poor taste. I didn't think Sanchez really did anything wrong. But give me your thoughts on this main event, Jeff.
Bill, I'm really excited for this one, man. Uriah Hall does not pull back when he starts pushing forward, man. And Sean Strickland's no joke either, dude. He's on a 4-fight win streak, and he's beaten Nordin Talib, Marshman, Brendan Allen, who's big, definitely someone to keep an eye on, definitely an up-and-comer. So I think that's a big feather in his cap. And Krzysztof Jotko, who is by no means easy for anybody in this division. Jotko especially, I think, is a really impressive win because Jotko can mix it up really well. But yeah, man, I think this fight's going to be really exciting. I don't expect to see too much grappling, but I think there's going to be definitely a striking clinic from these guys. And Bill, I'm looking up and down this card, and there's some notable names on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like some more like unknown matchups, but how do you not like a card that has Bryan Barberena on it? This dude, puts on a show every time he gets in there. The sleeper pick for me though is Mounir Lazzez and Niklas Stolze. So Lazzez, he's an entertaining fighter in my opinion, and Stolze, 0-1 in the UFC, but has a fairly respectable record coming into the UFC with well-rounded game. 4 knockouts, 5 submissions in his 12 wins. So that's the fight I have my eyeball on, and there's a couple other ones on here. What's popping out to you, Jeff?
Bill, I'm glad you brought up that Niklas Stolze fight. That looks interesting to me. I remember being impressed.
That's it.
I remember being impressed by his debut, because I forgot who he beat exactly, but I remember just being like, all right, that's somebody, that's a tough dude. That he
didn't. It was Ramzan Ameev, and he lost a unanimous decision, but it was a good fight from what I remember.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But it was also a year ago.
Okay. So, Bill, to be honest with you, I'm liking 2 fights on here. At heavyweight, the co-main event is Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Chris Daukaus, which, Bill, you can never count Chris Daukaus out.
Yeah.
He's a tough dude. I mean, he's got the dad bod going on, but that has never stopped him. I like Chris Daukaus. I'm a fan of his. He's from up here as well. I think he fights out of Philly. And then at bantamweight, I like Kang versus Rani Yahya, who, Bill, Rani Yahya is a tough customer at this bantamweight division, man. Mixes it up really well, will pressure you throughout all 3 rounds. So, Bill, I'm liking this card, man.
Yeah, and Kang, Korean fighter, is a submission specialist as well. 11 submissions on his record, but for my money, Rani Yahya probably the best jiu-jitsu fighter in the history of the bantamweight division. I'll never not tune in for a Rani Yahya fight. You're just going to talk about fundamentals. His fundamental jiu-jitsu is some of the best you'll ever see in MMA, like probably top 5 of all time for my money. So that's going to be a good one. Like, because Kang, he's got knockout power. He's got a few knockouts under his belt. Will he try and keep this one on the feet? Because, the ground is his world. but he has been submitted before. You do not want to be on. If you've ever been submitted in an MMA fight, the ground is not where you want to be against Rani Yahya. We got the former women's flyweight champion Nico Montano on this card against Yanan Wu.
Bill, I purposely didn't mention her because everybody forgot she was even champion.
I know you purposely didn't mention her. That's why I purposely mentioned her. Sam Alvey against Roman Kopylov will be a fun fight. Like you said, the co-main event is going to be good. Shamil Abdurakhimov against Chris Daukaus. And there was one more. Chris Gritzmacher against Rafa Garcia. That should be a fun fight as well. And then you got Jinyu Frey and Ashley Yoder on the prelims. I think that'll be one to keep your eye on.
Looking at that one too.
One's going to move up after that one, and one is going to move way down. Local guy Philip Rowe taking on the undefeated Orion Kosuke down on the prelims as well. Philip Rowe trains it with Julian Williams in Orlando. I think this is a fun card. I'm looking forward to it. I will be on the east coast of Florida next week, right around Miami. So we'll see if we get if we have to push the show back again. Hopefully not another 3 weeks, but hopefully we can still get to it on Sunday. Jeff, you got anything else you want to get off your chest?
Bill, I'm glad we're back, man. It felt like something was missing without having the show for a few weeks.
Yeah, I know. Thank you to everybody for understanding that I was without internet and then dealing with some family problems, but we'll try to get back onto our regularly scheduled drunken programming here. If you want to grab some MMA on the Rocks merchandise, check out our friends at Team Reaper, reaper1.co, promo code MMA Rocks 10. Save yourself 10% on your whole order, whether you want to buy some of our merchandise or someone else's, or some training gear, a new gi, a new bag, some sparring gloves, whatever you need. Team Reaper has got you. So go check them out. If you guys want to get a hold of Jeff, it's at @animal_Wilson, Twitter and Instagram. And you guys know how to get a hold of me. I know you've been doing it because you've been bugging me about where the episodes have been. Well, here they are. So now you can go back to talking to me about bourbon and scotch and all that fun stuff, and some fighting too. MMA on the Rocks everywhere on social media. That's all we got. Until next time. Cheers, everybody. Goodbye.